Hello and welcome to another video. In this one we're going to compare the new Spectre and Wolverine to the OG Triple OG, the High Road. Storm Products, Turbo Grips, Bowler's Mart, CoolWick, SRGBBFS on Facebook, and Royal Crest Lanes in Lawrence, Kansas sponsor the videos. Follow the links in the description and end of the video to Bowler's Mart for your bowling needs. That lets them know I sent you. My code Rosdahl10 gets you 10% off your purchases at CoolWick, and the SRGBBFS group on Facebook is your one-stop destination for all things SPI, specializing in used, rare, and international equipment. The Spectre and the Wolverine are both pearls, while the High Road is a hybrid, but the Spectre and Wolverine both have slightly stronger cores. They all come at the same surface, factory polished. The Spectre has a stronger cover formula, while the Wolverine and High Road share a very similar cover formula, but they're all three in the same general zone and have familiar looks on the lane. We're going to look at the High Road first, since it's kind of the watermark for what everything else is measured against. This is Angel's very first High Road, believe it or not. We've always had other stuff to throw, and when it comes to stuff like the High Road and IQ Tour, it's like, well, those have been around forever. Everyone knows about them. Let's just focus on the new stuff. However, they've been around this long for a reason. It's easy to see why, and the High Road very quickly made its way into her bag along with the IQ Tour that hasn't left very often in the last year or so since we drilled that. She's also sorted a lot of her mechanical issues out, so I think you can see she's throwing it quite a bit better than in the last couple. The High Road is somewhat of an anomaly. It gets pretty easy length, but is really stable. It's not one to just go long, wiggle, and quit. It pulls up from some nearly impossible places. The RG at 257 is high enough to get super easy length, and the 046 differential isn't high, but it's on the very high side of medium, so there's plenty of flare. As you've seen, it's got plenty of quickness. It wants to go if she gets slow or grabby with it, but it's also a really easy adjustment to get it back on track without even having to move, so it's a very user-friendly ball. The R2S hybrid cover is very balanced strength. It's not quite as clean as R2S Pearl, and of course not quite as early and smooth as R2S Solid, but it seems to have some kind of superhero power-up that keeps it just as controllable as the Solid and just as sharp as the Pearl. The total package adds up to something that'll never get discontinued because it's lightning in a bottle and as good or better than the Zen has been. Now, this was the Zen back in 2008, and it's still borderline cheating. Next, we'll look at the recently released Wolverine. The S70 Pearl cover is virtually R2S Pearl, so the Wolverine is really close to the High Road in terms of on-lane reaction. It has a 254 RG and an 053 differential, so while the cover makes it a little cleaner, the core is stronger than the one in the High Road, so they nearly offset. Ultimately, I think the Wolverine is a smidge earlier, definitely rounder and smoother than the High Road, but the overall roll and look on the lane is really similar. Sometimes the High Road is just too quick for her, so being able to move sideways into a Wolverine or Spectre and adjust the shape without adjusting the hook potential can really help out. This is something else I've talked a lot about. It's figuring out what you like or what typically looks best for you and creating diversity within that zone or window. Angel loves R2S and similar covers. It just seems to be the right reaction for her no matter what she's on, so she leans a lot on IQs, hustles, high roads, stuff in that general range. Sometimes the IQs and hustles are too early or too smooth, so she goes this direction and now has a few different looks in the higher RG and higher differential area. If the Wolverine is too smooth, she can take a look at the High Road, but if it's still too sharp, she can take a look at the Spectre. The Wolverine and Spectre are extremely similar, however the Spectre is even a bit slower or smoother. It's hard to tell on the hook potential because technically the Spectre has a stronger cover. The core is virtually the same, also at a 254 RG but a 050 differential, just a couple points lower, so virtually negligible. And stronger covers are also usually smoother than weaker ones because they get traction earlier and spread the hook out over a longer distance. The weaker covers tend to hydroplane and then react more strongly when they hit dry. Stronger covers get more traction through the oil and begin hooking earlier, so that makes them smoother when they hit the dry. As always, it's hard to tell on a house shot, but the R3S Pearl cover felt a lot stronger on balls like the Snap Lock and Intense, and neither of us expected the weaker core to create this much of a difference. Going from something like the Astrophysics to a High Road Pearl is still a decent jump, but they still feel like the same cover. The Spectre doesn't have much, if anything, in common with the Snap Lock or Intense. It feels more like R2X from the Marvel Pearl. A few people mentioned the similarity to the MP on the Spectre review, and we tend to agree. The High Road is still the GOAT. It's the sharpest of the three. The Spectre is the smoothest. I think the High Road also hooks the most out of the three, or the combination of hook and shape results in the most total aggression, despite the Spectre probably being the strongest on paper. I'd say the Wolverine is the weakest, but very marginally, probably unnoticeable on a house shot. You'd have to get on more volume to see the difference, and with as smooth as the Spectre is, that might offset what small amount of additional hook it has. I don't think all three of these can fit in the same bag unless you like stuff like the High Road and Hybrid Pearl and want a few different looks within the same zone. Now, if you favor similar shapes and instead vary your hook potentials, they definitely can't all fit together, and you'd likely have to pick just one of the three. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.